Welcome everyone back to Spoiler Warning with myself, Tom Colohue. We are talking wrestling as always. Our top story today will be on the WWE Draft, which seems to have been paused almost indefinitely at the moment as we are seeing constant call-ups from NXT, and it looks like we're seeing lots of moving around happening regardless of what the WWE actually had planned. We're also going to be talking about Stephanie Vaquer's plans going into the main roster, as we've discussed previously. We're going to be talking the reception of the Wyatt Six and their reappearance in the WWE, and then we're getting into some reports that I have serious questions about. I'm going to confirm why Bronson has been added to the Seth Rollins faction. It ain't to take pins, as Meltzer has said. We're going to talk about Willow Nightingale. We're going to talk about Travis Scott. We're going to talk about Asuka. There's a little bit, a truly ridiculous reports that I was seeing that Vince McMahon was going to buy WWE back, and my main question there is, who on earth would believe that? And also a little bit about the change when it comes to the lawsuit against WWE and Vince McMahon. There's been a change on that front, but I'll have to be very, very delicate about that one. So please be sure to say hi in the chat. Let me know you're there. If you're watching on TikTok, you can hit like as many times as you want. If you're watching on YouTube, you can hit it just the once, but please make sure that you do. If we get trolls, as we seemingly always do, you know what we're going to do? Let them. Because they, if anything, really hurt the growth. Really help the growth of the channel. They don't hurt in any way, shape or form. Beyond that, let's get into our top piece of news, because there's always plenty to discuss here. The WWE Draft is designed to take advantage of the connection to the NFL Draft and essentially ensure that the WWE gets a load of leftover SEO. People who late in the day are searching for the NFL Draft could find the WWE Draft, and they would then use that in order to essentially guarantee extra viewership and a relaunch of WWE, because those who do tune in see WWE at its best. Oh look, all these surprises, all these changes, all these new fresh feuds and faces. A large part of that is NXT call-ups, which are happening now regardless, showing a concession from the WWE that the draft is simply not worth it at this point. We are going to see, and we've already seen, many minor moves between Raw and SmackDown. These were already scheduled to happen as a matter of course. So these were already happening, and the WWE are not intending to make any big deal about them. Triple H is not a fan of the brand split anyway, so the draft has never particularly suited him, and to my knowledge, Triple H is pushing to simply abandon the draft concept, to go with the trades that they already have and the call-ups that they already have planned, a small handful of others over a month-long or so period, but the draft itself may well be consigned to history. So that's the evidence behind my assertion and the speculation there, but for me the draft looks set to be consigned to history and forgotten about. We're going to talk about Stephanie Vaquer next, but before we do, just want to quickly say we do a system here whereby for every donation on TikTok, for every $1 or pound donation on the YouTube side, I do a squat. Ed has been very generous with a heart and a Go Popular arrow. So, 2 squats, nice and quick. See how much in pain I am afterwards. But there's my first 2 squats. Thank you very much, Ed. Let's catch up with the chat. Let's see who's here. I can naturally see SNH saying, does my Tribal Chief return at Money in the Bank? I don't expect at Money in the Bank. I expect after Money in the Bank. Bailey's here. Thumbs up to yourself. One says, let's go. Leon says, pardon me. Hi, Tom. Hope you're doing well. Doing very well. Thank you. Everton says Triple H is said to not be a big fan of the Money in the Bank prop as a whole via WrestleVotes. Thank you for sourcing. Joey says, do you have any news on PWInsider's report of Mariah May? What is that report, May? Let me know. Ed says, hey, welcome, Ed. Everton says, is that what you're referring to there, Joey? What Everton has put? Mariah May is expected to join WWE in the near future. Let's see how it goes. I think it'd be a good step for her. Certainly she's built herself a great platform on AEW. I'm aware and have reported previously that they made a big offer, a huge offer, but that doesn't mean necessarily she wants to say that. Hello, Dylan. Dan says, Friday spoiler warning has become a workday lunchtime ritual, almost done with the day. Always the best days, the ones that are nearly over as regards to work. Welcome, mate. Joey says, was Travis Scott ever planned for Money in the Bank, or was it a made-up rumour? He was being considered, he was not being formally planned. There was a few steps that he would have needed to successfully undertake before the WWE were happy with it, and The Rock was pushing for it. More on that later. Hello, Sid. Cal says, hey, Tom, hope you're well, mate. Doing very well, thank you, Cal. Sledgehammer says, howdy, everyone. Howdy, Sledgehammer. And Sean says, hello, Tom, how's your Friday? Been a great Friday so far. Been a really good one. In case you can't spot, I've caught the sun a little bit. I don't apologise for it, but let's just say I've been out and about having a great time. Harris says, I've got a weird feeling Solo is going to cost Jacob tonight. I mean, there's always a possibility of it. I mean, he's got the United States Championship as a distraction. Wrestle Tom Jones, what a name. So Solo versus Jacob at SummerSlam after either one of them screw each other. I think it'll be a bit later. I have Drew McIntyre versus Jacob Fatu at SummerSlam personally. Ooh. Hello, Michael. Joey says, is JC Jane expected to have a long run, or would she give him the title to get it off Stephanie Vaquer fast? Both. Juan says, look out for the chat rate trolls. Always enjoy them. Always enjoy them. Dylan says, do you see the Money in the Bank pay-per-view being dropped by 2027, given that next year is after SummerSlam at the end of August? No. I don't see it being dropped. It still creates a lot of storylines and still really boosts the overall dynamic, so I don't see anything changing there. One suggests hit the like. Please remember to do so. If you're on YouTube, 3 more gets us to 30. If you're on TikTok, we're on 167 so far. Where was I? Thank you, Everton. I've reported on that one myself. Cal says, any news on the Wyatt 6 and how they did backstage react to their return? I know viewership went up a lot. Yes, I have news on that, which will be coming very shortly. Paul says, MVP shoots on Triple H. Does he? Didn't see that. Calvin says, hey, Tom. Marcel says, hi, Tom. Hello. Joey says, do you know if Ricky Starks has always planned for a call-up since he dropped the North American title? Yeah, he was always expected to be called up in this particular match. Hector says, Tom, what are your thoughts on Vince McMahon launching a private investment firm? I really wish, much like yourself, he would just go away. Makes the most sense to me. Joey says, why is WWE rushing up so many call-ups? They essentially had paused them for a long time, but when it comes to call-ups, there's a number of people who were basically stuck in NXT. So WWE is trying to clear the route and fill up a flagging women's roster after clearing a load of women out. Eric says AEW loses another top young star. Yeah, slightly awkward there. Ginger, welcome. Glad to see you could join us. Everton says, if only there was a show that rhymes with Revolution where the intention is to put spotlight on women's wrestlers, that's the best place to debut Mariah May. She might not be signed at that point. After all, there may be a non-compete clause. Sid says, Street Profits have done the best in-ring work of their career and just wrestled in an all-timer ladder match a few weeks back. Naomi and Jay played out one of the best returns. Kevin says, that was a report from WrestleVotes, and Dave Meltzer says Triple H is not a fan of the Money in the Bank gimmicks. Interesting. Appreciate the clarification, Kevin. Eric is loving the Jay White t-shirt. I breathe with the switch, mate. Always have. Sean says, Abaddon is also leaving AEW. Joey says, there's a Wyatt 6 plan to be involved with the tag division since I took out Fraxium. That seems a likely scenario at the moment. It's not where I expected to see them return. However, these things do happen, so it's interesting to see it from a different angle. I think the Wyatt 6 in the tag division would be very fun, and I did talk previously about them being plans for the Wyatt 6 in the tag division and the tag team that could be in that. Ed says, would there be a non-compete if the contract expires? Unlikely, but it depends on the contract itself. A lot of contracts, even after they do expire, do still contain some level of non-compete in order to essentially bury people on the way out the door. Drive-by says, hi Tom, do you see Roman returning at Money in the Bank or after? Personally, after. James says, will we see the Wyatts tonight? I expect so, given that we saw them last week. Kevin says, Tom, that was 1 for 1. What are you meaning there, Kevin? What are you meaning? Dylan says, you know what I'm thinking? People are hyping up the June 9th episode of Raw as if Goldberg is returning. What if he's not? What if the reason they're hyping it up is because Roman is returning? Leon says, the Switchblade shirt instantly makes you a legend. I try my best. Everton says, keep Mariah May far away from Dirty Dom. I would expect her on the other side and the other channel. I would expect Mariah May versus Tiffany Stratton relatively early. Calvin says, I'm surprised Ricky's going to the main roster instead of going right after the NXT title. He was always brought in with the knowledge that he wouldn't be around very long. Kelly says, hi, hey Tom, good to see you, my friend. Welcome, Kelly, good to see you too. Hector says, I wonder if Ricky Saints is being called up because him losing to Ethan Page wasn't what I expected, and the fact that Ricky Saints isn't even in the match where Ethan Page is defending the title is telling. Interesting, Bailey. I was not aware of that. Juan says Dave Meltzer has taken a victory lap. He believes he nailed the Mariah May leaving. Even doubled down saying he heard she flat out told TK she will not re-sign. Interesting. Not the time to take a victory lap. Also, if you're an actual journalist, you don't take victory laps. You're proud of yourself for reporting accurate news, and you leave it there. Cecil says PWInsider reported AEW removed her from their active roster. And Cal says, I think it will be Cody to dethrone Cena. That return had one hell of a pop. Cody versus Cena seems all set for SummerSlam. Roy says, do you think Mike Santana will be the one to beat Trick Williams for the TNA title? Seems a logical choice at this point. Erin says, hi Tom, hi chat, hope everyone is doing well. Welcome Erin, good to see you. Sean says, thoughts on JC winning the title? Which was more shocking, Trick winning or JC winning? JC. She hasn't been anywhere near championships pretty much the entire time. Danielle says, I guess we might be on the Superstar shake-up stuff from here on out. That seems to be the best sort of compromise that Triple H and WWE can offer, because it is simply far too late. Everton says, there's a reason why Cena and Paul are tagging is because they don't want Cena to get cheered if he faces Logan Paul. No. Ooh, where were we? Joey says, when do you think Joe Hendry will join NXT full-time? As soon as he's cleared to wrestle and has rested up properly. Thank you, Cecil, for the like. Appreciate it. Sean says, I don't agree with Jordan going up to SmackDown. I think she should dethrone JC. Seems like she won't be there very long at all. That says, big up Tom, when's Punk having a match next? Also, who do you see winning tonight? I see Punk in and around the Money in the Bank. I'd be excited to have him in the match. I just don't necessarily think it's guaranteed. Yes, Carla, we'll be talking about that shortly. Thank you, Wrestle Tom Jones, for repeating that. There's WrestleMania 42 thoughts. I've talked about quite a lot of different matches that are already being lined up, some very exciting ones. Vegas are currently trying to make a 5-year deal happen to keep WrestleMania in Vegas. Those are my only thoughts at this point because it's a long way away. Eric says, I was certain Ethan was getting a call up soon. Irish says, my guy Tom and is watching the pig. Welcome, Irish. Steve says, thank God they killed the draft. It's a stupid and outdated concept. Cal says, how does Trick winning the belt help TNA? Feels like they're getting the wrong side of the stick. Many in TNA feel the same. Joey says, I'm surprised Ricky got the call up over Ethan Page. I'm not. 2 words. Cody Rhodes. Oh. Cal says, I don't think they're intentionally going to the tag division. There's history with Loomis, Nikki and Gargano and Candice LeRae. Eric says, I saw your Money in the Bank preview and I'm surprised you don't have Naomi in the Money in the Bank match. Historically, it's a fair point. She does appear in them a lot. Hello, noob. I'm doing very well, thank you. Welcome to the show. Thank you, Cecil. I appreciate you for that. Not my most watched, certainly, but I quite enjoyed it. Says, if anyone missed PLE Wednesday, it was really good this week. Check it out. Hopefully you guys do. We've had about 400 views, which I'm happy with. But there's more than 100 people here, so if you haven't already, please do check it out. Oh. Hector says, Trick Williams feels like he's getting the Bron Breakker treatment, where every time you think they're going to be called up, they just end up staying in NXT. It's hard to tell what they think of Trick. Very true. The only reason they really went firmly with the Bron Breakker call-up is because Brock Lesnar suddenly became unavailable. Everton says, what if Miz helped Carmelo Hayes win the Money in the Bank contract? Then Carmelo Hayes would win the Money in the Bank contract. Rabbit, the first news was as regards the draft. We're shortly getting to our second. Everton, I have no news on that one myself. I just know that there's a call-up incoming. Dylan says, do you see Cena losing the title at SummerSlam? Nope. Or around the end of the year? And then the last couple of matches he has are as a face? Nope. I see his last match losing the championship. Ashley says, why is Meltzer obsessed with Raw's Netflix ratings? Because people keep clicking on it when he does it. Michael says, NXT Great American Bash is listed for 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Would run head-to-head with AEW All In starting at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, I believe. I'm going to find that interesting because it would leave plenty of time for the main events of AEW, so it might be people watch both. Cal says, is there worry about the viewership figures dropping on Raw since Mania? No. Calvin says, predictions for the Money in the Bank qualifiers tonight, Jacob and Naomi. Hey Joe, good to see you, mate. Cal says, I think it's disrespectful for an NXT star to become TNA champ, or if it was AJ or Drew or LA Knight, it would make sense. Everton says, with the tag confirmed, will we see all 4 stars on both brands like Jay and Logan on SmackDown? What do you mean the tag confirmed? I don't understand. Oh, the tag match confirmed. Yes, we'll see plenty of them on both shows. Ginger says, considering Evolution has actually been announced now, has there been a lot of smoke and mirrors when it comes to rumours? There has been for a long time. A very long time. And it's always very interesting seeing people, wrestling journalists, commenting on my videos where I highlight people reporting inaccurately about Evolution, saying, because they didn't watch the video, hey, you said Evolution wasn't happening, when 1, I never said that, and 2, you said that. You said that. Always quite funny seeing those comments. I love a troll. Rick answered that WWE interested in Mike Santana. PWInsider reported he made a great impression backstage in WWE. That is not confirmation of interest per se. It's McKay said, if the draft isn't happening, do you see superstars still going to Raw and SmackDown like a shake-up? There's been plenty already. Sid says, Eddie Kingston clarifies comments after claiming he knows who leaked AEW info. Fair enough, go nuts, mate. Cecil says, do we think Ethan will be called up sooner or later? Yes. Cal says, if I'm honest, I think Cena will have to stay till next year's Mania. As I say, there's been discussions about that. Hector says, if Cody is a factor in Ricky Saints coming to the main roster, is it a good indication Ricky will be headed to SmackDown to help Cody in the lead up to SummerSlam? No. It's a good indication that he's getting someone who's really behind him and helping his career. It does not guarantee anything involving working together. King Azza says, Tom, I see Cody pinning Cena at Money in the Bank, setting up Cody versus Cena at SummerSlam. Personally, I go in the other direction. I really do. Cal says, Tom, how dare you not say something someone else said that was wrong? Yeah, wonderful, isn't it? Always makes perfect sense to me how that thing and that garbage works. Calvin says, I'm getting frustrated myself with how Karrion Kross isn't getting used. Same with A-Town Down Under. I guess Triple H and management really hate it when superstars get over organically. I don't think it's entirely down to that. I think there's a lot more to it. Liam says, a long-time company employee believes if WWE does run WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia, it will be later in a year and be called along the lines of Super WrestleMania. So one employee thinks maybe things will be slightly different. Thank you, Pete, for renewing your membership for a 27th month. More than 2 years, mate. Thank you kindly. Dylan says, do you see Punk having a match at Money in the Bank or getting taken out so that he doesn't go to Saudi Arabia? Personally, I think him dodging Saudi Arabia would be a good move overall for him. Joe says, how much influence does Cody have backstage when it comes to talent or backstage? Same as any top-level talent does, which is a lot. Noob says, per Fightful, they say that there's no return plans for Asuka, but then WrestleVotes reports that WWE is hopeful for Asuka coming back at the end of this year. Pretty sure it's PW Nexus as well, who were reporting that Asuka was supposed to be coming back this month. Let me check that and just confirm, because I don't want to inaccurately say anything like that. Asuka WWE return update. Let's have a look what people are saying. There you go. Reports from PW Nexus have suggested that Asuka's return could take place following the Backlash Premium event on May 10th. So yeah, either something else has happened there, or the initial report was incorrect. Sean Kalani, I don't have information on that. Calvin says Fury is getting hella cheered on main event and will continue to be so. WWE are listening. Roy says, who do you think will win? Timeless Tony Storm versus Mercedes Money. I think it might be Mercedes Money's turn to take the championship. Anthony says, I wish Mariah May well in the WWE. If that's where she's going, makes perfect sense to me that she would come in a pretty good position. Cal says, I see Cena pinning Cody, which is where I've gone as well. Anthony says, I hope you're doing well on this amazing Friday and have a great weekend. Thank you very much. That's a lovely thing to say. Paul says, Bully Ray said Jey Uso doesn't feel like a world champion. Do you agree? No. Calvin says, I've kind of got a bad feeling about AEW and WWE having their shows on the same day. Battleground and Double or Nothing went on at the same time. Liam says, advertise for SmackDown tonight. Undisputed champion John defends title versus Cody Rhodes. I don't think we're going to get John Cena versus Cody Rhodes tonight, mate. That'd be weird. Sean, I don't care. Couldn't care less. See, I don't go on Twitter. Even if I did, I've had the guy blocked for 5 years and it's one of the best decisions I have ever made. One of the best decisions I've ever made. If he wants to whine about me on Twitter, wouldn't know, don't go on Twitter. Even if I did, had him blocked. So it doesn't pop up in my notifications, which he full well knows. And my life's all the better for it. So for someone bitching and whining about me on Twitter, you know, I did notice a massive impact that it had. I lost 0.0606% of my subscribers. Then they came back. Yeah. Could also be because, you know, I don't post shorts anymore, so there is a small reduction in subscribers because of that. Who knows? Who cares? I'm happy, and yeah, whiny little bitches are not worth letting get in the way of that. They ain't worth it. Paul says Natalia now works on Busted Open Radio. Yes, she does. Michael says I haven't even seen many AEW fans turn on Mariah like WWE fans turn on Ricochet and Mercedes. True, I would argue that when it comes to AEW, people are a bit calmer nowadays. Cal says it's ironic these journalists calling you out are the same people who release news like the Wyatts will be on TV soon, which they said since December, and have a victory parade since the return. Yeah, anyone taking that victory lap ain't worth listening to. Sean says pre-wrestle votes, SmackDown is set to remain, so per wrestle votes, SmackDown is set to remain 3 hours as USA Network wants to keep it that length and they're happy with the numbers it pulls in. Interestingly, I do believe it's wrestle votes who are the ones constantly reporting when it's going to go back to 2 hours. Wrestle votes, SmackDown, 2 hours. Let's have a look. Yep. WrestleVote's talking about going back to 2 hours. Weird world we live in. But hey, they updated their information and then they shared it. Credit to them. Sean is asking who beats JC Jane. She's only just won the championship, mate. Stop wishing the loss on her. Cal says, surprisingly, Tom doesn't release news because there's news he releases correct news. I beg anyone to fact check Tom and I guarantee you'll know Tom is spot on. Appreciate you for that. And yeah, I do suggest anyone who does question, fact check it. Every video is right there. I've seen people mock me for the titles on the thumbnails of the wrestling receipt when I say, you know, like Evolution is a lie. I also say Drew McIntyre is a lie. Why did no one question that one? Pretty sure is real. Pretty sure. No guarantees. Next up, Stephanie Vaquer is on her way to the main roster. Her loss to JC Jane has now confirmed that it is time to move on. I was expecting her around this time, but I was expecting her to lose to... Can see her face. Sorry, guys. Jordynne Grace. I was expecting her to lose to Jordynne Grace because I was expecting the call-up at this point in time. So the door is now open for her impending main roster arrival. I've spoken at length about the rumours that she'll be lined up to challenge Becky Lynch for the Women's Intercontinental Championship at next year's WrestleMania. But until then, she's expected to be a key figure in the women's division on Raw. They need people above Becky. They need people competing for championships. Stephanie Vaquer is perfect for that spot. Everton says, give us Io versus Vaquer and Rhea versus Vaquer. I'd be down for that. We're going to get those moments. I also think we'll get a Bianca Belair versus Stephanie Vaquer, which I'm very, very excited for. Sean, I will be addressing that, don't you worry. Hector says, I know this has been asked before, but when again is Karrion Kross's contract scheduled to expire? Unfortunately, I don't have that information personally. Hot Tag Wrestling says, hello Tom, great to see you. Great to see you too. Welcome, Hot Tag Wrestling. Sean, I cannot confirm that about Jordynne Grace. That is news to me. Cal says, I don't know what you think, Tom, but it's a shame Sting retired in AEW. Would have loved to see him retire in WWE and have his last match on TNA. He was very, very happy to retire in AEW, and he was very, very happy to bring the ratings with him when he did. Ed, thank you very kindly. 3 more roses, 3 more gifts, which means, as you're all aware, 3 more squats, because that's what we do whenever we get the gift. For every gift, for every dollar, for every pound, Tom squats. And when Tom squats, his knees get worse. The record is still 75. I don't think physically I can do that again, but I had a great time. Thank you very much, Ed. I appreciate you for that. Where was I? Right. Wyatt 6. And I know a lot of people are waiting for this one, so do me a favour before we go. Let me know in the chat if you've already hit like on the video. So if you're watching on YouTube and you've already hit like, just let me know. Tell me if you did. If you didn't, now's a great time to hit that thumbs up button. Please do consider it. We are talking the Wyatt 6. WWE are thrilled with the reaction to and the reception of the Wyatt 6 upon their return, and also very excited about potentially working with them in tag team action in the tag team division. They've been off TV so long that WWE at this point want to keep them on TV as much as possible, even if people are injured or unavailable. They finally landed on creative options and creative outlets that work for everyone, and it means potentially that Uncle Howdy will take something of a back seat while all of their focus will be on what happens beyond. So we will get plenty of people involved, even if someone is injured or hurt. However, the WWE are still somewhat nervous. They're nervous to get them too heavily involved as storylines start to build, as storylines get to that fever pitch. There was, for a long time, a lot of very happy faces in the crowd and backstage when Bray Wyatt would return. But behind the scenes, this would often turn sour quickly. So WWE are currently taking baby steps, just baby steps, to protect themselves and make sure that when it comes to the big changes for the Wyatt 6, they're able to ensure that people are still on TV, people aren't being forgotten, and everything is still working. It's McCade. So, firstly, wow. Secondly, thank you. That is a huge amount of gifts, which I can still see coming in at the top. If I count them up, that is 175. Now, as you know, I did literally just say 75 is probably more than I can do right now. I'm definitely going to do those. However, just to be clear, I am going to have to record something separate for you, okay? I am going to have to record something separate for you and then probably play it during a future live. Because 175 is a huge, huge number that I'm simply not going to be able to do in the half hour that we have left. That is insane. So, thank you, first and foremost. Thank you. I will ensure that tomorrow I set up a camera and do squats 175 times. I promise you. And then we'll find out a way to get that video to you, or as I say, I'll just display it during the next live video. So yeah, it's McCade. Thank you very kindly. I appreciate you. And I'm not going to do those yet. A hefty 175 squats, you're going to kill me, is incoming to yourself. Thank you very kindly. Ooh. Now I'm scared. Cal says, I think AEW is good at the minute. It's not as good as its first year, but after 2 horrid years, the product is good. Oh, you're going to do worse. Oh, you're so evil. And so generous. Thank you. Roy says, Scarlett Bordeaux received a standing ovation after a mixed tag team match with Rhea Ripley. Juan just says, like. Chris has also liked. Daz has as well. Ginger's been doing DDP yoga since 30. Zero regrets. Oh, that's a good shout. Erin's hit like. Daz has hit like. Christopher has hit like. Roy's hit thumbs up. Ashley has as well. Cecil has. Autumn has. Wonderful. Thank you so much, guys. Kelvin says, Jordan Grace is going to be on SmackDown. Will she appear tonight? Again, I don't have any information as regards Jordan Grace. This is news to me. Cecil, their deals are entirely separate. entirely separate. Hello, Juan. Hello from Blackpool. Sean says, who do you think beats Zelina? At this point, Alexa. And Carl says, I do still think Howdy has a match with Cross at Mania one day. Christopher says, 175. Dang, that's going to hurt. Well, he's made it worse now because he's gifted another 50. Which takes us up to an astounding 225 squats. Now, Ed has also given a heart, so I'm going to do a squat for that one because, let's be fair, guys, it's one squat. I'm only human. So I'm going to do that one. And basically make sure that I don't have to do too many in the video as it comes out. But there's number 4. Tomorrow, basically, I'm just going to spend the entire day squatting. 200... Oh, here he goes again. I maybe didn't think this through. 230 squats. I'm taking note. Everton's all over it as well. Thank you, McKay. That's a hell of a lot of generosity. And just to be very clear and to take away from, you know, the jokes and the laughter, as it were, thank you. I'm very serious on this one. That is an incredibly generous thing to do, and I very much appreciate you for it. Ooh. Dave Meltzer has reported that Bronson Reed was added to Seth Rollins' team so he could take pins so that Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker didn't have to. Now, Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker have largely avoided taking pins anyway, and as I've already reported, Bronson Reed is there to be elevated. He's there to be elevated alongside Seth Rollins, and he's there to be protected, thus ensuring that he didn't need to worry about potentially aggravating injury again. So he's working with people who will keep him from being in a position where he had to risk his body and put his body on the line one more time. Everton, I just want to be clear. I appreciate encouragement of gifters, but that's an instruction to someone to spend their hard-earned money. So if we can rephrase that, thank you. 240, because it's McCady still going. He's gonna kill me. He's gonna kill me. He's genuinely gonna kill me. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt. Sledgehammer says the thumbs up was already hit. Thank you, Sledgehammer. Bailey says, let's see the 175 on Monday. Spoiler warning. And that makes the most sense. It's not 175 anymore. It's already 240. Backward says, your legs are going to be jacked by the end of this. Dylan says, at Night of Champions, do you see Jay versus Cena? Since Cena is apparently booked for Night of Champions. Given the story at the moment, it would make sense. It would indeed. No worries, Everton. You clearly heard me, so it's all good. Daniel says, hey everyone, happy Friday. Happy Friday to you too. Calvin says, WrestleTalk website reported a rumour that Austin Theory may be traded to SmackDown to join DIY and Candice LeRae in their feud with the Wyatt Six. Can't see why that would happen, but certainly would be a way to keep him face. Or not, because they'd all be faces. It's very awkward. Howdy and Wyatt Six, hit that like button. Christopher says you can do like 50 a day then. That might be how it goes. I'm going to aim for at least 100 a day, because then we'll get it ready for my next spoiler warning. So it'll be done this weekend. I promise you that. Promise you that. Proud Dad, welcome. Thank you kindly. Ooh. One more. There you go, Popular. Thank you very much. My knees are stinging. I don't have to go for a walk tomorrow because you're already killing me. Already. Good day, Unique Unicorn. Good to see you. One says, do you believe WWE trying to bait AEW with the pay-per-view counter booking, even though AEW hasn't taken shots in a long time? I think WWE aren't necessarily trying to bait as they are trying to crush. Everton says Cena versus Jay now the champion's interesting. I wonder who they'll have in face at Crown Jewel. Hector says, well, Tom, at least you won't need a gym membership now. Yeah. And Nick McKay says, no worries. Thank you for the news. Best person to get news from. But I'll give you 10 more. Appreciate you. Paul says, who inspired you to become a wrestling fan? Originally Kane. Not so much anymore. Thank you, Vincent Vargas, for following on the TikTok side. I appreciate you. But yeah, originally it was Kane. Then it was Triple H. It's kind of still Triple H. Backwards it says, Tom the Squat King. Yeah, I have made many mistakes. PWInsider have confirmed by reporting that the WWE was indeed interested in signing Willow Nightingale, but not interested enough to offer her a contract that was better than the one being offered by AEW. Willow Nightingale has now signed a new deal with AEW and will be sticking around. We now get to the Jonathan Coachman section, which is what the hell. Jonathan Coachman has accused Travis Scott of flaking and not training hard enough to learn to wrestle, resulting in Logan Paul taking his spot. Travis Scott was considered, as I mentioned earlier, but WWE don't believe him to be ready. The Rock is pushing WWE to use him as much as possible, but WWE themselves are going to be sure that he isn't a risk to himself and others before they allow him to step into a ring. Also, as regards Jonathan Coachman, did anyone really believe speculation from Coachman that Vince McMahon was going to buy WWE back? Everyone always seems to forget that there isn't just a buyer in a deal like this. Someone has to want to sell too. TKO have no interest whatsoever in selling the WWE. So it doesn't matter if Vince McMahon wants to buy it. He can't. A quick note which I need to be very careful about, so please bear with me while I become a little more serious. The Janel Grant case against the WWE, Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis has seen a pretty big change over the last few days. There's been a slight change to it in that John Laurinaitis is no longer listed as one of the aggrieved parties. There was speculation, particularly from John Laurinaitis' legal team, that he was a victim rather than a perpetrator. And while I can't speak as to the intention of this without knowing it in depth, I will say that this does seem to suggest that Laurinaitis was indeed a victim rather than a perpetrator, as his legal team is previously mentioning. There will undoubtedly be a lot of moving parts here, and I don't want to prejudice anything by making assumptions. But when it comes to this, we are still in the very early days, and we will be learning a lot more in the days to come. No, Paul, I've tried a couple of Prime, did not love it. Bismo says Tom may have to change his channel name from spoiler warning to squat warning. I mean, what a warning. Juan says Jonathan Coachman is just another Conan at this point, a clickbait. A lot of people not believing it. Backward says Jonathan Coachman says whatever comes into his head, he reminds me of Hulk Hogan a bit that way. Michael says, quite rightly, John Laurinaitis' credibility will be in question with how many times he's flip-flopped. And in that time, McCade threw another 10 gifts. So that is 250 squats. I promised you them. You will receive them. 250. You will receive them. Chances are that will be at the end of Monday's spoiler warning. I'll put that video in and I'll upload it as a unlisted video for anyone who wants to watch it again and again and again. I don't know why anybody would. I'm not that entertaining. It's going to be a really weird video. But hey, whatever you do you. Everton, I will survive. One of my knees may fall off, but the things you do for wrestling, the things you do. Unfortunately, this particular show might be a little truncated and a little short because that's actually all the news that I have today. Not so much to share, and a couple of it was reiterating what I've mentioned previously, but that is us wrapping up there. So I do want to say big thank you to everyone who has watched. McCade is still going. But for now, we will be wrapping up. Thank you very much, everyone who has joined us here on Spoiler Warning. As always, I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.